Hello everyone, Tzilla54 is my name, and welcome back to another toy review, which I'm so excited to show you. But first, there's something I wanted to say. I'm that I haven't been recording since the last time I reviewed Bagan, the last Bagan. And the reason that's because I'm having a technical problem with the Wi-Fi, but everything's okay now because everything is back online and everything's fixed. But enough of that. Also, I wanted to say that I also purchased 2 items from the store. And first, I wanted to show you the very first figure that I bought. And here he is. Here we have Bagan, the video game version figure from the official Godzilla game for the Super Nintendo, Super Godzilla. And yes, this guy came from the official Super Nintendo game. But if you guys haven't seen the previous Bagan figure, I suggest you should click on that video, and then you'll see a lot of histories about Bagan. But anyway, I wanted to show you this that it comes with. It's the official Bagan card, which represents the video game version of himself when Bagan is the sixth boss of the video game. And here on the back, it also says Movie Monster Series, as it says in the previous video. And the same thing with inside of the card, but only this time with a different title, as it says video game version from Super Godzilla on Famicon, or Super Famicon. But Super Famicon is like a Japanese version for Super Nintendo, but the cartridge is way different. So actually I'm just gonna go ahead and bring out the Super Famicon cartridge to show you what it looks like. And here we have the Super Famicon. So now this game that I have right now was different than Super Godzilla. And this one right here is called Godzilla Kaiju Daikusen. But I know some of you might have it because I've seen your video for a while ago. And I just thought that this game looks fantastic. And it was so cool that you were able to play different monsters other than Godzilla. But of course, I always play as Godzilla. But then I'm like, I'm gonna try playing as King Ghidorah or Gigan or Anguirus or Mechagodzilla. But here's what I mean by comparison through the US Super Nintendo and the Japanese version of Super Nintendo, aka Super Famicom. So just wanted to show you those two before we get to the details of Bagan right here. So here we have the Super Nintendo and the Super Famicom. But I do have a console which allows you to play Japanese games called Retron 5 and Retron 3. So yeah, I got it from the store. And now I'm allowed to play US and the Japanese versions of those games. But also, one last thing before we get to the detail. So here are the 2 cards with the same picture, and the same name, but we got Bagan and we got Bagan from Super Godzilla on Super Famicom. So the only thing I can conclude was that, as I said from the previous video, we got the movie-based figure and the video game-based figure. Okay, with that being said, let's go ahead into detail. So I have to say, this paint job and the whole detail of this figure looks absolutely amazing compared to what you've seen on the video game version, or that you have played Super Godzilla. And chances are you will probably agree that this is the best figure design that it was ever made, ever since the first Bagan came out. And now we get a second figure, and now it's repainted based on the video game version. But I really love how they changed the purple orbs into gold orbs. Because like my previous Bagan, this part was like purple, but the whole flesh of his body, well, it's not like actual meat, but this is just like his whole skin. Plus, he's so tough that he was so tough. I couldn't even fight Bagan as normal Godzilla, but I know this is very, very extreme for me to say this. That yes, I did fought Bagan as normal Godzilla, and that was before I transformed into Super Godzilla. But the first thing that I did in the game was that I also fought Mecha King Ghidorah as the normal Godzilla instead of Super Godzilla. Why? It's because I wanted to give it a try to see how tough is Mecha King Ghidorah and Bagan on Tokyo level. So yeah. So at the final boss level, I hold long enough just so that I could give a little bit of damage to Bagan, because even though in the regular form, I can't beat him, and so he beat me and I get a game over screen, but I still have 9 continues right before I gave it another chance to fight Bagan. And only this time, I transform into Super Godzilla. Can you believe that? But I have to admit, that was pretty hard for me to fight Bagan on my first fight. But anyway, so here's the tail. At the bottom of the tail, it's like the same color as the legs and the front body. And this, by the tip of the tail, it's a lot different from the previous Bagan. And that is really cool. And these horns on top look so realistic, because the way you're thinking about like a bowl, you'll know how dangerous those horns are if he appears in a TV show or something like that. But I'm not so sure if Bagan has a TV show, but all I could say is that Bagan has appeared in 3 games now, because we got Super Godzilla and Godzilla Movie Studio Tour and Godzilla Battle Line. So yeah, I play Godzilla Battle Line. But can I say something about the teeth? The teeth looks perfect. I love it that it was all white, but the inside of the mouth, oh my gosh. I can never tell you how amazing inside of a mouth is. It looks so dark. Because imagine if you would get eaten by Bagan and it was so dark and he would devour you in one bite. So now, let's talk about the video game of it. So the video game called Super Godzilla, he's the 6th and final boss in Tokyo, right next to the National Diet Building. But he first appeared as an energy orb, like a giant ball, that it was so big, and it's like this size. So after unknown aliens that gathered two different cells and bringing back the legendary monster Bagan. So the two monster cells that I'm talking about was Godzilla and King Ghidorah. That it was discovered by a professor in the video game. So he thought combining both Godzilla cells and King Ghidorah cells together, and this would create Super Godzilla. Or, which in this case, the aliens now have their energy, now the energy, excuse me. So the aliens have an energy orb, which now combines with Godzilla cells and King Ghidorah cells. And this explains that this monster actually came from China. And now they brought it back on a modern day so that this monster will be able to defeat Godzilla in one blow. But in order to defeat Bagan, you have to become Super Godzilla, or else you will die. And he is so merciless and so tough that he will not stop until your life points goes down to 0. So pretty much that you have to beat him. You had to fight him long enough until his life points goes down to 0, and then you're the winner. And the game ends. So yeah, that's basically the history of Super Godzilla. But other than that, there are also 5 more monsters before Bagan as the sixth boss. Yes, and there are King Ghidorah, Mechagodzilla, 1974 or 1993 Mechagodzilla, depends on which console that you're using. Then Biollante, Batra, and Mecha King Ghidorah. But after you defeat all of those monsters, then you move on to level 6, which is him. Alright, so now that I'm done talking about Super Godzilla video game, now let's go ahead and compare to the previous Bagan that I talked about. So as you can see, you'll notice how different this version of Bagan is. And like I said about the purple orbs, they repainted them with gold. And I really like it. So now you can look at the eyes. They're a lot different because this one's like dark orange and this one is like light brown in the eyes. And also the teeth were like yellow. And this one's also white. And at the front, you get different colors at the front and the legs and the chest. And not to mention the arms. But the arms are like gray. And this one is also brown. And then on the back, not much different on the back, but except it's like gray and brown. And at the bottom of the tail, the two tails are also different, such as purple and very dark brown. And then the tail. So this version has a white tip on its tail, while this one doesn't. Then we'll go at the bottom of the feet. The bottom of the feet is pretty much the same thing as before as we talk about it. Then the horns. Let me see. Okay, then the horns. This one's got dark and gray. Then we got the tip of the horn much like brown, and also I can't even remember the color of this one. But let me know what kind of color it is in the comments below. Alright, so now, alright, I'm done with comparing to the previous Bagan. Let's do the size comparison. So the first thing I wanted to give you a size comparison was the NECA figure, and that is the 1989 NECA Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Biollante. And then the horn was like almost the same size as his nose. But now we'll move on to another Bandai series, which these are like the American versions of these figures. So I'm gonna bring out Rodan 2004. So here we are with Bagan and Rodan 2004 from Godzilla Final Wars. And also that reminds me about the part where a lot of people start to explain the deleted scene from Godzilla Final Wars, and then we saw this new monster that has crab claws and starts attacking a building. And some people say that this is actually Bagan in Godzilla Final Wars, but in this case, that is not Bagan. But yes, I know you'll probably say that really is Bagan, but then there are some other explanations on Wikizilla. So if you would like to, that you can go ahead and click on Wikizilla or type in Wikizilla Bagan, and he will tell you everything about Bagan. Then moving along, we have Godzilla 1968 Bandai, and this Godzilla is a little taller than Bagan, but I find that hard to believe, actually. But if you were to think about the Showa Godzilla fighting against Bagan, which I think he's about the same size as the Heisei King Ghidorah from the instructions from Super Nintendo manual. Then we'll move right along with Burning Godzilla. Now, Burning Godzilla is shorter than Bagan, because I would actually like to think about who will win this fight, Burning Godzilla or Bagan, because I would really love to hear about it. Or actually, I would love to watch about it if you guys had the chance to make a toy battle between Burning Godzilla and Bagan. Now that I'm done with those figures, I'll bring out 3 more SH Monster Arts, which I'm about to bring. So now, I don't have Super Godzilla figure yet, but we will improvise to see how big Space Godzilla is. So here we have Space Godzilla, and of course, as you didn't know, that the way you imagined about Super Godzilla, so Super Godzilla was like direct inspiration for the upcoming Space Godzilla, cause if you think about it, this is kind of like the same design from Super Godzilla, but only this time these crystals are long. But except for Super Godzilla, he doesn't have crystals on his shoulders. He only has spikes that grows onto his shoulders. But can you believe that? Because I actually never knew that Space Godzilla is almost the same design as Super Godzilla. And now, with that being said, I will bring out 2 monsters that are like the first level and the 5th level. before you reach Bagan. Okay, so I'm gonna bring out Mecha King Ghidorah. And of course he's really huge because I couldn't back him a little bit. I couldn't back him up a little bit because he's too big, and but I'll be able to fix that. So anyway, here you are. Here's Mecha King Ghidorah with Bagan. Now for King Ghidorah, or for another one, here we have the Heisei King Ghidorah, which is the first boss in Osaka. Oh man, his head popped off. So, alright, hold that thought and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So I did fix the head, but I will actually fix the head later because I didn't apply dish soap, as one of you did explain on how to fix your SH Monster Arts, even though if their body parts do pop off or something like that. But I will do that later. And here's a size comparison with King Ghidorah. Even though in the Super Nintendo instruction manual, it did say that Bagan was the same size as King Ghidorah, for like about 150 meters tall. But like I said, you might find it something different about when you play Super Godzilla. Even though you would agree that both King Ghidorah and Bagan are the same size. But like I said, you could also check out other videos like Wikizilla or some other videos that could explain about Bagan. Alright, so now that I'm done with all of the size comparison, I would like to give an announcement that, as I said at the beginning of the video, I bought two things from online, such as this guy and also the Godzilla cards. But that's gonna be another day, because I don't know when I'm gonna record the Godzilla cards. So as a result, I hope you enjoyed this video. As I explain about Bagan and the history of Bagan. But if you haven't seen the very first Bagan, I recommend that you should go back and click on the first video of Bagan, which is called Movie Monster Series Bagan or something like that. But anyways, but thank you guys for giving me so much support, and I also wanted to thank you for sticking around on Tzilla54's channel, and thank you for subscribing to my channel so that I can keep going. And we'll be back soon as soon as we talk about the next video. But like as always, don't forget to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and leave your comments, and turn on notification bell if you want to see the next video of a Godzilla review. So take care, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.